Isn't this an interesting insect? I think it's a dragonfly or related to a dragonfly, but it doesn't look like any dragonfly I've ever seen. And look at those colors, that pattern. It's getting something off of the squash leaves. This is a Burgess buttercup squash. Yeah, it doesn't have wings that a dragonfly has. It kind of looks like a helicopter when it's flying. Yeah, more than likely it's a completely different kind of insect that I just am unfamiliar with. Hi everyone, time for Olive City Homestead's July garden tour. And zinnias too. So come join me. Well, starting off with my newest bed, the one I prepared this past spring, I have a lot of squash growing and a ton of moon and stars, aka Cherokee watermelon growing, as well as some broomcorn sorghum. And yeah, you can even see one large watermelon in there, or can you? Let me find it for you. Ooh. There it is. See the big yellow circle? That's the moon, and all the little yellow speckles are the stars. And this is, at least 16 inches long now, and about 6 inches across. And there are a lot of little ones in this bed too. There's one growing on top of a little wire cage. That was just sitting in there protecting a little plant. And I moved it one day, meant to come back and get it, and forgot. And so this watermelon just decided to climb up it. Here's another one down in here. Oh, that one's getting pretty big too. That's at least 15 inches. So anyway, throughout here, there are lots of little watermelon. I also have various squash plants growing. The squirrels haven't made it over to this new bed much. They have a little though. Let me show you. So you see the tips of the growing squash here, but look over here. See that? Here you can see where the ends have been chewed off, but look at that. It's trying to re-sprout there on the end, and it probably will. Lots of little baby watermelons growing though. And other squashes too. Yep, there we've got one growing. You know, I'm not sure. I think that's a golden Hubbard. I think it's maybe the only golden Hubbard I've got going strong. There's also some Amish paste growing down at this end. So yes, that bed is doing very well, mostly because I think of the two sacrificial beds just beyond it. So the bed by the fence had climbing beans on it, which I replanted over and over and over. And the squirrels would eat down and eat down and eat down. I also let the older plants just keep growing back up, which they did, but the squirrels would eat them down again. Here's an example of a couple that have been eaten down. And yet, look, they're trying to regrow. Okay, so I finally pulled out some, as you can see, and I have just now planted a bunch of sunflower seeds. But you say, what about the squirrels? Because they do love sunflowers. They've eaten all my sunflower plants in other places until I managed to figure out a way to stop them in one area. And now I have ordered wire, after a lot of research, to get the kind I wanted, because what they've been doing is they can't get through this chicken wire. Well, actually they could chew through chicken wire, but they don't bother. They've got plenty to eat. It's just when there's something as tempting as squash leaves, well, they're gonna come in and eat them every chance they get if it's not too difficult. However, what they do is they climb up the chicken wire to the point where it stops and then come in through these holes. So what I'm going to be doing today is putting more wire all the way up to the top. And if that still doesn't work, I will maybe put barbed wire at the top, but I think that's gonna work because I don't think they're gonna find it worth the effort. There is plenty for them to eat out in the olive orchards. So they really don't need to come in here, they just like to. So my tomato plants here, of course the squirrels don't bother tomato plants. They also don't bother pepper plants, so I have my Fresno peppers here doing well. I've already harvested many, and these are volunteer tomatoes here, which I didn't know what they were, but they are now growing. Let's see. I don't know. Those could be anything at this point. They could be Roma, they could be yellow pear, they could be round red ones of some variety that I don't know. I think I had ace planted here at one point. Well, we shall see when they redden up. Over here again, I've got, now that I know I'm putting the wire up today, I pruned back most of the dead branches and left where the beans are resprouting at the bottom, and we'll give them one more chance. But I also did, as I said, plant sunflower seeds along here because now I know that when they sprout, the squirrels won't have such easy access. My lantana plant blooming nicely, of course. It loves this climate. And this is a Roma tomato that I replanted here. I transplanted it from another spot in the garden where it was just too shady. It didn't really like the transplant because it was pretty large. It was probably at least twice as big as this. When I replanted it, I took off a few branches, well, half the branches, and it took about a day to acclimate, and now it's doing well again. Didn't lose any fruit or anything, so I'm happy I moved it. Down here at the end of the bed, I have a pepper plant. Let's see, this is a Buena Mulata with nice purple blossoms. And I've heard from a recent subscriber who has her own nice channel. I'll link it in the description below. I can't think of the name because, I literally just found her channel a few days ago. But I will put it on the screen here and link it below. She grows Buena Mulata, and she says they dehydrate super well. So I'm going to be trying that with them. I usually pickle my peppers that we don't eat fresh, but I'm going to also try dehydrating. And some calendula growing, looking beautiful. Definitely going to be using that in some body salves and lotions. A few more Buena Mulatas here that I'm probably going to transplant somewhere. Probably into the bed here with the others because I know squirrels don't like them. So even though I say my new wire is going to keep them out, why even tempt them? If they just see a bunch of tomato and pepper plants, then perhaps they'll just say, it's not worth the effort. If they can't see beyond that to, the squash and melons. And they discovered the okra plant. This okra plant was probably 4 times this big, as in 4 times this many leaves. And they just, they left it alone for quite a while, but then they discovered it and they have just munched it and munched it and munched it. But okra, it's tough and it just keeps regrowing and regrowing. It's so beautiful. I hope I get a chance to actually see the flowers. No, what am I saying? I hope. I know I will because of the wire I'm putting up and the camouflage. Oh, look, some more peppers. Now, this is growing so well in the pot. I'm probably just gonna leave them here. This is a Georgia flame pepper. Due to the squirrel problem, I have a bunch to replant in this bed. They actually devoured most of the buckwheat. I think I have 2 buckwheats left here on the end. And all the melon plants that were on this side. So I've been replanting with peppers. Got a bunch of Aurora peppers. And I think, what else? Oh, here's a couple of volunteer okras have come up too. Well, my phone turned off because it said it was too hot, which I found interesting considering it was 7 a.m. Not hot yet. But, oh well, I went ahead and did all my watering, and now I'm back, and it's much sunnier, much warmer. And guess what? I do have open okra flowers. Look at that blossom. You can tell, can't you, that okra is in the hibiscus family. Also, hadn't noticed before, but look what we have right here. Okra ready to harvest, despite the fact that the squirrels munch so many of the leaves on this plant. Yeah, okra, super resilient. I'm definitely glad more volunteers have come up in different places, especially now that I've learned some tricks about cooking them to get rid of the slime. All right, in the bed against the storage shed there, I have a geranium that needs to be deadheaded. Seems like it always needs to be deadheaded. And then I have some climbing Christmas lima beans that are finally starting to climb. So maybe we'll have some beans in the fall. I do have some melon and squash on either side and some really gorgeous zinnias there. And let's move up into the main part of the garden. And there it is from the bottom of the slope. And in this bed I have lemon cucumbers, which are finally starting to fruit there. I see several there on the vines. And this plant, actually there's 2 or 3 here. Yeah, 3 now. And they're all doing very well. If you start hearing some banging or sawing, things like that, my next door neighbors on the property behind me are doing some sort of loud building. And the little teenagers across the street are riding their little mopeds up and down the country road. So sorry about that. And these are kabocha squash. They're starting to take off now, having been transplanted. And there in the middle is a purple coneflower, echinacea. And in this bed, we've got zucchini growing. And looks like I've got one to harvest. I've been harvesting them every day. Over here, this is a yellow crookneck. Yep, there is. Gotta get that one off this morning. Oh, my beautiful society garlic. Smells so lovely. And a tomato plant. And what is this? Leaves in a bucket of water. Yellowing leaves in a bucket of water. Yeah, I make compost tea with that. It works great. My Itea Virginia Sweet Spire starting to turn its beautiful autumn shades. At least I like them. And this bed in the middle of the garden has some more society garlic. A bunch of small, let's see, what is this? This is butterbush squash, which is a miniature size of butternuts, like a single serving size. They're great. If you like butternut, you should try them. And then I've got another zucchini. Yeah, I see some baby zucchini in there. On the far end of the bed, we have Armenian squash growing up the trellis, as well as Burgess buttercup. There's that big one that's been ready, or what looks like ready. You know, the size has been right for several weeks. I think it's about ready to harvest. It's starting to get some orange color on it. I have some others already. Here's one growing, and here's a little smaller one growing. Oh, even over here on the trellis, I've got another one. This is the first year I've done Burgess buttercup on a trellis, so I'm really pleased with it. I've got the Armenian cucumbers growing on here. I've harvested several, probably over a dozen already. And here in the bed next to the Burgess buttercups and Armenian cucumbers, I've got Roma tomatoes, which are super productive this year. This plant has probably 2 dozen on it already in various stages of ripeness, green and orange. And you know, you have to really get in there to see them all, but they're there. And I've been harvesting every day, and that is the same for all of these. Can you even see them? There they are. Yeah, they hide real well until they get dark red. So there's green ones on all the plants, and then yeah, there's one I can pick. I'm really pleased with the Roma tomatoes. Definitely going to keep growing them because they're so productive. You don't have to wait forever for them to ripen because they're not that big, but sliced lengthwise, they make great additions to sandwiches. And I still, of course, grow my cherry tomatoes. Let's go look at those. All right, this long bed, it's about 15 feet long, is full of sweet 100s. And I mean, I can stick my hand through this wire and grab them, or I can get them on the other side because there's a pathway down the middle of the bed. But these are so good. I snack on these and on my sun gold cherry tomatoes every single day when I'm watering, and then bring some in the afternoon or evening for, oh, whatever, pasta salad or popping fresh, or so many other things we like to do with them. I had to eat those. They're so good. Yeah, I have a full, long bed of these. They're now over my head. These are 6.5 feet tall, and we're just loving them. I know you can't tell how many are on here, but I'm telling you, there's hundreds and hundreds. I have to get my teenagers out here. They love them, but they'd rather mom comes out in the heat and harvests them. Yeah. The sun golds are growing in this middle bed in the back, and they're doing awesome. Get in here and you can see there are just so many of them. Everywhere I look, I find more. And these orange sun golds, if you haven't grown them before, Well, I say it every video, and I will continue to say it. You're missing out because these, in my opinion, are the absolute best cherry tomatoes there are, and I've tried a lot of them. Now, along the edge of this bed, I have lots of walking onions and strawberries and 2 gooseberry bushes. This is the first year for them, so they haven't fruited, but they're looking nice and healthy. And on this side of the cement bed with the sun golds, I've got my canna lilies. And I have shown them before. I just absolutely love these leaves. That color, oh my gosh, nature is the best artist, right? You just can't duplicate that. And I did wonder, would they bloom here? Well, guys, yes, they will. Take a look at that bloom. I don't know if the sun is so bright you can't tell, but the orange of this is absolutely gorgeous. I came back in the evening and took a photo so you could see what it truly looks like. So I'm really happy about that. The others might be too much in the shade behind the tall sun golds, but they still have lovely foliage, so I'm glad I put them here. Next year, I won't plant cherry tomatoes here. I think I'm going to fill this bed with some more short bushes, maybe currant bushes, and then the canna lilies can grow up taller than the bushes, and they can all bloom. Also, I need to thin them out because they're packed in here. Way too many. That always happens, but that's fine. I can divide them out and have tons more. That's a really great tip for you if you want to grow an easy flower that has beautiful foliage as well as beautiful blooms that you can propagate yourself. I bought one tiny little flower once, and now I probably have, easily 50 or 60 plants, maybe more, because they just spread underground. And you divide them like you would divide irises. So yeah, I'm really happy with this location for them. The melon bed is doing well. These were little starts that I planted late, and they're all doing fine. Look at that, all those blossoms, and they're all vining out. Musc de Maroc and some Noir de Carme, green nutmeg. In the middle, I've got gazanias helping to attract the bees. Some pineapple sage that smells divine and makes a wonderful tea. And of course, some more volunteer okra. I say of course because this a few years ago was my okra bed. My rose hibiscus is doing fabulous. Again, it was a late start, so I'm really happy with how well it's filling out, and I can't wait to get the flowers. Next to the melon bed, I've got some more melon. These are 2 Kajari melons that also were late starts. I had a lot of later starts that I didn't put in until the end of May to the middle of June, and they're all doing fine. And these over here are butternut. The baby rescued loquat tree is really filling out and looking nice. It does like this location, and I've figured out it needs a lot of water. So yeah, it's doing well, and hopefully next year I'll get some fruit. And in this bed, I've got some more onions coming up there. I had cut off all the big old ones, and of course, walking onions, they just shoot up more from their bulbs. I've got some pretty purple and pink agastache, and some more yellow crookneck, doing super well in this corner of the bed. And over here, I've got a new eggplant I just planted recently, and some red snacking peppers that take forever to fruit. Last year, I remember that. But once they started, it was so prolific. I mean, literally probably 300 peppers a plant. Good thing that one of my kids loves pickled peppers because I made a lot last year. The buckwheat here next to my sage is doing very well. It does like this filtered sun. And so now I know that next year I'll plant all my buckwheat in filtered sun rather than putting it in full sun, which the label said it wanted, but again, here the sun is so intense and it's so dry here that, yeah, it needs filtered sun. And buckwheat, in addition to having really pretty blooms, makes a great addition to your soil for compost, and also chickens love it. I've discovered that. Well, hello, bee. The bee is going to my oregano flowers. This is why I let a lot of my herbs go to flower, although I have cut back and even taken out a few of my herbs and getting ready to plant some new ones. This is a thyme. I took out the main plant, but it had sent off a runner that had rooted in the ground, so I'm letting that come up there. I might transplant it later since it's in an awkward spot, but free plants, I love it. After I cut out a lot of the oregano, only leaving the stuff on the fence by the chicken coop, new oregano has started growing, as it always does. Oregano is amazing that way. I have oregano everywhere around here now. It comes out like the gazanias and the alyssum, just everywhere. Oh, and the okra. And here we've got some green sorrel, which the chickens love it. That's their absolute favorite. And some oregano. Look at these beautiful purple blossoms. Now, I'm going to do a short video next, after this tour video. I'm going to share with you a simple but rewarding and delicious way you can use these oregano blossoms, and that is to make a flavored vinegar with it that you can use in your cooking and on salads. Meanwhile, the bees are going to town here, and then when they're done, they visit my veggies. Got some basil still doing all right here because it's in the filtered sun and because I keep pinching off where the blossoms are going to come. If you watched the last video, you know I have a massive aphid infestation on my Chinese red noodle beans. It's the only place in the garden I've got aphids, and I showed you the very young ladybugs I found all over them. Well, now those have turned into regular ladybugs, and they're doing their job. I still have a ton of aphids, and I may eventually take these all out because they drive me insane. But the noodle beans keep producing, and once I wash the aphids off, they're fine. They taste great. So far, I'm continuing on, and we'll see how all these dozens and dozens of ladybugs do in their battle against the aphids. I stuck a bunch of old green onions, walking onions here, you know, telling myself I was going to come back and plant them. Never got around to it. Fresh green onions have grown up in their midst. So it works no matter what. These walking onions are so tough. They just come back whether you replant them or just set them somewhere. And a volunteer sunflower has come up in their midst too. Speaking of sunflowers, here is that bed where I put tulle all around it and I sealed in the top with tulle. I recently, about a week ago, took the top off so that the bees could get in. And look what I found yesterday. My first sunflower. Oh, isn't it lovely? It's an autumn beauty. And I've got a bunch of other sunflowers here ready to bloom. And a bunch of squash down there. Don't even remember what kind, but it's alive and the squirrels haven't eaten it because the tulle worked. So I can't praise tulle highly enough. It worked all right. I wouldn't want to have this all over the garden, but here by the fence, it's kind of out of the way. It was worth it to me. And now when I get the wire up, I probably won't even have to do this next year. Here I've got stevia, one of 3 plants I'm growing, along with a bunch of lavender purple bells. Those flowers are like 6 years old. They just keep going. And right next to them I have a very tall amaranth. It isn't sending out its blossoms yet, but over here, these amaranth are. Just look at those crimson flowers. Some people think they look like dreadlocks. I think they are just so unique and so lovely. And I love the shade of green next to that crimson, yeah. In here I have a bunch of different flowers. I've got snapdragons of different colors, some mums in fall color. Here's some of that buckwheat with the pretty dainty pink flowers. And I see zinnias. Yes, right here next to the spider flowers, I have all kinds of zinnias. Love that orange one. These little ones are lilliputs, all different colors, reds and oranges and dark pinks and light pinks, just all different kinds. So I've been loving those. I do like the bigger ones a little better, but I am enjoying these smaller ones more than I thought I would. Right in the middle of all this is my black sapote chocolate pudding fruit tree. It's brand new and young, so I won't get fruit off of it this year, but it's doing really well. And here are some more zinnias. Just look at those. I love the purple prince zinnia, but these orange ones, I don't even know the name, but I love them. They're in the pot with my corkscrew willow tree.
Behind the canna lilies, I have my young fig tree. I have three or four other fig trees that are much more mature and producing fruit. This is a cutting I took off of one of them, and this year it has really taken off. It shot up over a foot higher than it was just a couple months ago. It really likes this spot, and it likes that I'm giving it a lot of water every single day. Yeah, so hopefully next year I'll get fruit off of that one. That one is I think it's a tiger panache. Yummy. Here is one of the mini olive trees I've got growing. I started digging up olive seedlings that are everywhere around here. You know, I have 100 trees that are over 100 years old, and they send up little seedling trees everywhere all the time. And I used to just cut them down, but now I've started actually planting them, and this one has grown this year. I planted it in the spring. It's grown probably 2 or 3 feet since I planted it.
And growing here with the purple salvia is my Suriname cherry tree. It's doing great, sending out lots of new growth continuously. So I'm hopeful that I might plant it in the ground this fall and it might produce fruit next year. Rudbeckia is blooming, as is the coreopsis. My Nagami kumquat doing great. You can see blossoms on it, but also it already has new fruit on it. If you watched my video a little while ago, a month or so ago, you saw me make some kumquat jam, and this thing had so many kumquats on it, and I cut them all off, and now it's growing new ones. As they do, it really likes it here, and lots of new growth coming out. Yeah, I'm really happy with where it is and how it's doing. One of my crepe myrtles is blooming pretty in pink. I've got some snapdragons here and 2 lemon yellow zinnias.
Speaking of zinnias, these scarlet ones are kind of growing on me. In my last video I said I don't really like red flowers that much, but it's kind of hard not to like these because even though they're red, they have this wonderfully bright and cheerful yellow center of tiny little flowers. I just love that. Still, my absolute favorite zinnia color has to be this deep, intense, wonderful orange. Just look at those. This is the cactus zinnia.
One of a few lemons growing on my pink variegated lemon tree that no one thought would survive after it broke off right at the graft a year and a half ago, but there we go. I've got one growing.
Now, I almost didn't show you guys this because it's not pretty.
I haven't got all the Bermuda grass out, and I didn't get around to taking my old walking onions out, but look. Fresh green onions. Now I'm showing you this because if you have walking onions and you think, oh no, my onions have all died, I might as well rip that plant out. Well, you can take the old stalks out, but don't dig it out because down beneath it, you're going to have lots of new onions coming up. Those bulbs, they stay alive through almost anything. And I do have some pretty flowers here. Some purple salvia,
Some lovely purple fountain grass,
some lantana.
Now between my new melon bed and those Sweet 100 tomatoes, I have a bunch of corn growing. It's golden bantam corn, and it's all at different stages. Some of it's got tassels now, some of it's younger now.
I've had good luck some years with corn and some years not so much, so we'll see. Hopefully it does great.
And here we've got a beautiful little harvest. I do like to harvest every day so that we can eat fresh from the garden on a daily basis. And this looks like a great selection of fruits and veggies to eat today.
And some Chinese red noodle beans. These are so good. I love using them in stir fry, and that's what I'm going to do for lunch today.
I did want to make sure, though, to gather some of my chocolate mint here because I want to make an iced tea today with it. If you haven't tried chocolate mint, it not only smells like chocolate, it tastes like it too, so it makes a great tea. Right, girls? Right, girls? They're too busy looking for worms. They don't really care about the mint. So that wraps up the July tour, guys. Yes, there's more I could show you, but then it would go on, and it's already 103 degrees Fahrenheit right now at 11 a.m. So hope you're having a great week wherever you live and whatever your garden is like right now. Enjoy the good things and try to just accept the bad and move on. That's what I do each and every day. Remember, You can create the life you want and the garden you want. And if you start right now, well, you'll have it all the sooner. See you next time, folks.